Autopsy report. I performed an autopsy on the body of Sean Michael Smith? Oh, Sean Michael Smith, performed an autopsy on the body of Andrew Reed at the Department of Coroner's Office in Grand City, Newland on June 9th, 1995, at approximately 800 hours. The anatomic findings and pertinent history describe the death to A. Third-degree burns and... Really, only third-degree burns? Huh. Pneumothorax. Pneumothorax. 44-year-old white male with burns, found at home, pronounced dead at the scene. Third-degree burns found across body, completely charred over head, face, neck, hands. Heavily charred across the front and back of the body, legs and feet. Closer inspection reveals punctured lungs with an object similar to a switchblade or a small knife. Pneumothorax is a possible cause of death, but body is too burnt to confirm. 26-year-old white male. Okay, so this is Henry Johnson. Exsanguation. Exsanguation? Oh, he bled to death. Okay. 61-year-old white male pulled out of car submerged in lake. Oh, this is Adam Roberts doing it on July 14th at 1100 hours. Victim's lungs do not contain water, which shows that he did not die by drowning. Due to the prolonged submerging of the body in water, the estimated time of death might not be accurate. Estimated time of death is between 12 and leaning towards the front and above the right eye, has a wide crack, unusually caused by a sharp object and strong force. Front torso, face and back portion of the forearms, suffer numerous lacerations. Victim most likely succumbed to blood loss before being placed in the water. Top right side of skull leaning towards the front and above the right eye. Okay, so especially the part where it says strong force, that makes me think that this was Derek's switchblade. This was Bernard's axe. Body of Vivian Roberts, performed by the same Shawn Michael on July 21st, 1995 at 700 hours. Also exsanguation. 55-year-old white female found lying in front of mansion gates, pronounced dead at the scene. 12 centimeter wide, 7 centimeter deep crack found on the right side of the head. Impact caused by strong force and sharp object. Lacerations on front torso and back sides of both forearms. Victim died from loss of blood. Second axe. I just had a sudden thought. Andrew Reed might have actually been killed by Scott. Okay, so go with me on this. Andrew Reed needs to give Scott more information. Even though he's on good terms, Andrew Reed has started to lose it mentally. And Scott then kills him and then chars his body. Henry Johnson and then Vivian Roberts were killed by the same person using the same axe. Now, I'm going to guess that it's not Bernard. Now, this is a very interesting deduction here, but Bernard would not have a reason to smash his own closet if he had the key. So I'm going to guess that he has the key, okay? I'm not going to go like, oh, maybe he lost it, or like put some stuff. Let's just say he has the key. He doesn't have a reason to then break his own cabinet to get an axe. And I'm also thinking that the knife is missing too. Okay, so I just added some thought. I feel like all of that paperwork right there was just to get me confused. Because as I mentioned at the beginning of this recording session, because it's still the same recording session from the beginning of Act 3, I actually need to find the murder weapon too. And that is going to come into importance. and they basically just added a switchblade, a hunting knife, and an axe as all possible likelihoods. Oh, this was the ripped page. Code for Charles's safe in the gallery is Vincent's birthday. How could I not have thought about that? Call Sheriff James, check the file, 7741. Thank you, Stephen. And that's the picture I was waiting for. So this is with all of the darts on the board. Next stop, I guess, is the Tyler's house. I'm actually going to go there first because it has less things for me to look at. City of New Jersey Department of Child Psychiatric Division. Psychiatric evaluation for Derek Tyler, June 17th, 1981. Dear Miss Wanda Tyler, after almost 5 months of sessions, your son Derek Tyler is now much better. We are still unable to get him to talk much, but he has chosen to express his thoughts and feelings through written text, which is a breakthrough for him. During his last session, however, he wrote the following. Dad was standing in the middle of the road. He was waving to me. Mom was crying and her tears dripped onto my face. I woke up. Kitty was purring, licking on my face. I think she wanted to go out. Mom doesn't like me to make noise when it's late at night. Says it will wake everyone up. I was very quiet when I opened the back door. Kitty flew away. There was noises behind the wall fence. There's a door that always locked, but there's a light behind the keyhole. I walked to the door, looked through the keyhole. There were 4 people. 2 of them were fighting. A baby was crying. Then one of them fell down and hit her head. She stopped moving, her eyes were open. I wet my pants because she was looking at me. Derek has been very quiet. We haven't been able to fully grasp if what he wrote was real or imaginary. Nevertheless, we are concerned with his situation. Kindly get back to us so we can discuss further steps into looking into this. Derek witnessed the murder. Okay. So, the only way to get to this point is to have actually, read through enough of the journal entries to know what they're talking about at that moment. It would have been weird if we somehow found this out and knew that there were 3 conspirators. January 24th, 1981. The school called. The principal told me that the kids have been calling Derek names, saying that he is a bastard child. I know that Derek wants to know where his father is. I don't know what to say to him. The school called me again. This is February. Told me that Derek poked a bird nest until it fell off the tree. After that, he stoned the chicks to death. This resulted in him being suspended from school for a week. Principal asked if Derek had suffered any kind of trauma that would cause him to act like this. I could not tell him that Derek witnessed Sophia being killed. So Wanda knows that that was Sophia. All the way back in 1981. I see. He was only 5 when that happened. May 11th, 1981. Derek stopped going to school. He told me it wasn't for him. I should not have asked him to keep quiet about Sophia's death. He must have been bottling up his emotion all these years. Maybe it's time I start homeschooling him. Weird that that's the last book for Wanda Tyler, and it's kind of uneventful. Like, all that drawer really tells us is that Derek witnessed her death, and now his motivations are going up too. So, let me put it into perspective. Scott, Bernard, and Trisha, down. Charles, Derek, and Matthew, up. I still do not have the smoking gun, but yeah, the second that I am shown which one of those is the most likely suspect, I will pounce on that. And yeah, I'm still going with the idea that Derek is also Charles's illegitimate son. Yep, there we go. That's blood. You see that reddening around the edge of the knife? That's blood. Derek was the one that killed Andrew. I am a little bit more certain of that now after I've looked at that knife a little bit closer. Okay, first things first. The knife. Serrated blade with bloodstains on it. We now know where the knife went. Okay. Now let's figure out how to open this. So, the way that it works is that we need to tally up all the points, and then yellow darts from the red darts total. I have a sneaking suspicion that I have to do a little bit of algebra to figure out, like, the last yellow dart. Okay, let's do some math. There we go. I almost thought that, we had... Okay, I got confused for a second because it's like, okay, red minus yellow. And then I did the math and went, wait, yellow is higher number. And then I realized, oh, I'm not supposed to subtract these numbers from the 501? Like, as if it's their score total. I'm actually taking the number values and then subtracting it. Go up and back up. Bernard Hopkins. When the police reported that Vivian was murdered, I was floored. I still don't know what to do. My mind is blank. All I could think of is, how did it happen? How can Vivian be dead? Ev was mourning Vivian's death. People are coming or calling in to express their condolences. Charles hasn't been out of his room for days, and Trish is crying her heart out. Dorothy has been assigning busy work to all of the mansion employees, hoping that it would take their minds off of Vivian's death. Samuel, our security guard, has been reviewing all the tapes of the past 2 weeks for any suspicious activities. Wish I could be of any help. Scott was just apprehended for the murder of Vivian. Is that true? No one could have ever thought of that. I could never ever believe that Scott would be capable of killing someone, let alone Vivian. Yet it makes me so mad. I feel confused. Trisha was admitted to the hospital today. She had a nervous breakdown after finding out that Scott could be her mother's killer. Her condition has been getting worse over the past few weeks, and no one has been able to properly help her. Charles finally decided to seek out help from the hospital. Matthew never believed that his son killed Vivian. He hired some fancy lawyer to defend him. Scott's been released on bail today. It's beyond ridiculous. I don't think Scott should have been released at all despite the insufficient evidence. He killed Vivian. I know that he's guilty. Everyone knows it. They should have gone ahead and prosecuted him. The maids were cleaning the mansion when they found some stuff belonging to Vivian. A key and some stationery. I asked Charles what he would like to do with them, but he told me to take care of it myself. Brought it back to my place. November 4th, 1995. So 2 days before Scott's murder. Vivian's death has caused lots of grief for everyone, especially Charles. After hearing how heartbroken Charles was 2 nights ago, I can't bear to see him suffer anymore. Scott should pay for what he did. Is that not the last of Bernard's notes? Desk key. From the tea room. Okay. Oh, before I go, I should actually try to check to see if this, it does. Bernard's bedroom. Day 1. Hospital gave me these pills. They are supposed to help fight depression. Day 2. I feel a slight dizziness. It might be the food that I ate this morning. Day 3. The dizziness comes and goes. I'm still able to work, not a big problem. Day 5. It's my day off today. I didn't take the medication. By the evening, I started thinking about Vivian. Day 8. I had to drive Vivian again, so I took double the doses. I had a migraine for the rest of the day. At least I didn't have to think about her. Day 11. Couldn't Vivian stop seeing that guy? Why can't I stop thinking about it? Day 12. Now I know that my dizziness comes from those pills. Day 20. The pills. They don't seem to work anymore. Doesn't matter if I take them or not. I can't stop imagining what Vivian and that guy are doing whenever they meet. Day 32. I have stopped taking the medication. Interesting. Very clear. January 12th, 1995. I drove Vivian today since Derek is out of town with Charles. As I was driving, we talked. She expressed that despite having a successful business, she felt empty and tired. Trisha hates Vivian for trying to stop her from seeing Scott. She seems to be really bothered by the name Vincent, and her relationship with Charles seems to be just for show. I wish I could comfort her. She's going through so much right now. If only I could confess to Vivian how much I respect I have for her, how much I admire her. January 18th. Ever since Trisha brought up the name Vincent, Vivian has been pretty quiet. Even during dinner, she hardly spoke. I can barely remember the last time Vivian appeared happy. I don't think I can blame her. Wanda hasn't been coming to work for a while now. Her illness is getting worse. I wonder how she's coping. January 5th, 1995. Derek wasn't available to drive Vivian today, so I offered to help. It's been a month since I first drove her. She's been opening up more to me, telling me about the struggles she's faced with, her rocky relationship with Charles, and how much she dislikes Scott. Sometimes I would give her some suggestions when she asked what she should do. Other times she just wants someone to listen to. Mostly I'm just happy to be with her. February 22nd, 1995. Vivian seems rather distraught recently. During the afternoon tea gathering, I stood outside the room and tried to listen to the conversation. She feels miserable being with Charles. They hardly look at each other, let alone speak. Personally, I don't think Charles deserves her. I finished reading Vivian's biography. Half the facts were incorrect. The writer should have done his homework better. March 17th, 1995. Sometimes when I'm driving for Vivian, she asks me to drop her off at the corner of a street, typically in front of Tom's Cafe. She's always telling me that she'll make it back home on her own. It aroused my curiosity, so after dropping her off today, I parked the car and watched her. She ordered a cup of coffee to go, and she left the cafe and walked up the street about 5 minutes to a residential area. She stopped in front of an apartment and pressed the doorbell. Shortly after, a man in his early 30s wearing a suit opened the door. He leaned over and hugged Vivian. She gave the coffee to him, and they exchanged some words. I couldn't hear what they said, and then they entered the apartment together. Who is he? May 12th. This is the 6th time I followed Vivian. After she went into the building with the guy, I parked the car nearby to wait for her to come out. Is this considered stalking? About 2 hours later, the cab stopped out in front of the apartment. Shortly afterwards, Vivian came outside, Man followed closely behind. They chatted for a bit, but Vivian looked extremely comfortable with him. Before leaving, she kissed him on the cheek. What's going on? May 29th, 1995. Tracked down the guy. He works at a bank. The place they meet is his apartment. How could she do that? Who the hell is he? I reported sick for the third consecutive day. As I laid in bed, I kept thinking on why Vivian would be seeing another man. No matter what Charles did to her, she has kept her faith in him throughout the years. How could she be having an affair now? She's better than that. She's supposed to choose me. Yeah, cool, Bernard. If the knife being hidden under the floorbirds wasn't a red flag for what might have happened, that journal is definitely one of those things that really makes you sit down and consider it. Bernard took one of his knives and used that knife to kill someone. I am personally gonna guess that that someone is Scott. I was leaning towards Dr. Johnson. Doesn't really seem. I'm still under the impression that Bernard would not break his own cabinet for an axe, considering that the knife in this case is missing. I'm going to hazard the guess that shortly after the events of the two journals in here, shortly after the events of the two journals there, Bernard was tasked by Vivian to kill Dr. Johnson. Now, I have absolutely no... I don't know how true that is, but this is what I'm working on, okay? Derek Tyler kills Andrew Reed. I don't really have a solid conclusion as to why, but he does have a bloody knife. Man, Bernard, you have so much medication. Shortly after that, Bernard finds out about the affair that Vivian was having, and in a desperate way to get back into her good graces, he kills Dr. Johnson for her. Maybe? I'm not entirely sure. It could be that he was killed by the same axe that then later killed Vivian, but the fact that they refer to it as a switchblade, and this is clearly a combat knife. I was saying hunting knife for a while, but it's actually a combat knife. Really makes me think that the person who killed Dr. Johnson was not the person who killed Andrew, and who was not the person who killed Vivian. I have a sneaking suspicion that Bernard was tasked by Vivian to kill Dr. Johnson because of the embezzling. Not actually for, like, revenge for Sophia's murder, just collateral. And in thinking about that, I have a suspicion that the reason why Andrew took it as badly as he did is because he's the one that led to Sophia's death, which is why Sophia is effectively haunting him, because he's the one that pushed her and was the one who actually committed the murder of Sophia, even though all three were culpable to it. Which then leads me to the simple idea that whoever killed that those two names are now stricken from the record. Okay. So you might remember these letters from earlier into the series, back when I was exploring the house. I'm recording this now as I'm recording that episode to kind of splice later on, but I just realized that it is most likely that Bernard wrote these letters shortly after finding out about her affair, and that's why she's been getting it. Next time I'm actually in the game, I'm going to closely look at those and then cross-reference Bernard's handwriting to see if that's true. But it's super interesting if he's what actually led to this, because he's letting all of his, like, because he's letting out all of his, like, problems that he's ever had with her, with, like, his dad dying in the mines and his obvious problems all, like, coming together as, like, as one whole, you know? So that actually kind of makes sense now. Okay. So I double checked, and Bernard basically only really writes in cursive, as you could kind of see from the way he is here. He writes in a sort of like connected cursive. So I'm thinking that this isn't his handwriting, and since I'm recording this after basically completely done with the game, yeah, I don't think he wrote these letters anymore. But it was an interesting theory at the time, you know. Anyway, let's get back to it. Okay, so this was my list of suspects. Okay, you had Charles, uh, you had Charles, Derek, Bernard, and Matthew at the top, and then you had Scott, and I guess Bernard was also down there at the bottom of less likely. And if I were to basically cross out Bernard and Derek's names from the list, basically the only two really good examples of who could possibly have killed him basically is now sitting on the two Brooks. Scott being the actual murderer would be an interesting twist of like you set up the red herring and then it's like no, it actually was him, but now you just have solid proof. Matthew has as much of a motive, and Trisha becoming hysterical could lead to credence onto the idea that she was responsible, but less likely. I put at the top of the list right now, Scott and Father Matthew. Under that you have Charles, and then just under that you have Bernard. Just under that you have Trisha, and then just under that you have Derek. I don't think that Derek would have killed Vivian, but his knife is bloody, and that is noticeable. That is notable, I should say. The only other thing is that the biggest thing that is going to tell me, hey, this person is the killer, is if I actually find that bloody axe. Because Bernard hiding the bloody knife tells me that he killed Scott, and that's all I could think of right now. Now, I'll do that one next because that's actually going to give me important information, so I'm going to do that one next. I'm going to go to the photography lab. I've been putting this off for a bit. I kind of want to see what's in here.